I realized in my last video that I have quite an opportunity. I have a sub $200 radio, as well as a couple of other sub $200 radios that I haven't really compared to each other. And I figured, let's resolve that. Let's take these radios, put them on the tabletop, and compare things like the speaker output quality, the output to headphones, power output, and just relative ease of use, as much of a demonstration as I can, so that you get an idea of what it's like to operate these radios. Because while they are inexpensive, some of them are certainly quirky, and other ones maybe are not up to par when considering the lineup of at least these 4 radios. So hopefully you find something interesting out of this, and I'll talk through it as we go. So let's turn it on over to the tabletop and get started. We're going to start this project with the TruSDX, which was actually like one of the first radios of this type, this kind of feature-rich, small, inexpensive radio. It is definitely the lightest of the pack, although it's thicker than the QMX. So dimensionally, it is about 3.5 inches long and about 2 1/3 inch deep and about 1 1/4 inch tall. Now this is charged off of the same battery connection as the Jenkopotamus computer. In fact, I have the power leads for it right here, and you can go into it just like that. It powers on with the plug-in of the coaxial DC power link. It is a SMA radio, so if you end up going with a K6ARK antenna for this, you'll have to use an adapter like this one here. That is an SMA male to BNC female connector, or just make yourself a SMA male antenna to go into the SMA female connection. But we're just going to use an adapter for right now. In fact, in my little kit that I have that I used for the 1 pound POTA challenge, I had an SMA K6ARK antenna that I used for that challenge, and it worked just fine. Connecting this to power, we should see relatively low current draw. This runs about 80 milliamps on draw, although I'm not seeing any of that right here. It shows on my meter, though, that I'm getting about 7 amp draw right there on my little power supply, adjustable power supply. Everybody asks me where do I get this. It's the Toolkit RC. It's the P200. It'll do 10 amp max, 100 watt AC, 200 watt DC, but only 10 amp, so keep that in mind. I have it set for 13.8 and about 2 amps on draw. So we are in USB mode right now, and I do not hear it, so I'm going to go into menu. All right, there it is. Now, this speaker is pretty rough. Let me just tell you that right now. About the worst part of this radio is the speaker. So let's just go ahead and get the power output done right now. Now, what's interesting about this guy is on CW mode, keep an eye right here. At about 1 amp draw, CW straight key, 8 watts out, it draws about 1 amp. And it's solid. It's showing a 1.17 SWR, and it's showing a little less. It's about the same, 7 watts out. Pretty good. Now, if you hold down the left button, you actually get a waterfall on this guy. So get a load of this. So we're going to use this to maybe finding some artifacts in there. Now you get these random spikes when you're tuning. You just give it a second, and if you hold it there, it goes away almost immediately. Not real signals. All right, I found a station, and I want to do this in the best way possible to let you know that, we're recording in a high state. So I'm going to be using my very nice Zoom H6 handy microphone to do this. And I'm going to get this about an inch away. Here we go, I'm going to record for you. Let's throw some headphones in this and see if it improves things at all. So here was absolutely an amazing QSO that I heard on this. Unfortunately, I didn't capture the video, but I got the audio, so I'm going to overlay it while we're just hanging out right here.
Really kind of crazy to see. Yeah, that's pretty incredible, Bob. I've seen a lot of fireball meteors up in the mountains. November, we're typically not up there. The pass is already closed by then, but You know, the Leonids will definitely have some fireballs, but I've never heard any that will give...
Now, talking briefly on the battery of arms for the TruSDX, it has a menu system that's controlled via the button, and there are a wealth of options for bandwidth, band of operation, which I got to remember. Which bands do we got here? 30, 40, 80. Oh, this one is 20 through 80. There's a low band version of this, and then there's the K6ARK band spread, which I think it covers 40 through 15 or something along those lines. And you can modify this radio. It's real hackable to be able to do that. But yeah, I usually leave it on 20. You can change your tuning rate. There is an AGC control as well as a noise reducer, but I don't use the noise reducer, and I try and keep the volume around 11. Going above 11 and you start to pick up weird distortions, artifacts from the radio that you don't really want. And there are messages you can program. Now, as far as its operation, you can PTT, and there's a microphone on board for single sideband, although the microphone element is not fantastic. Much like you can with the zBitx, they have the capability of kind of doing everything on board, including having a little speaker. Speaker is also not fantastic, but it's something, right? It's something that you get included in the price, which is pretty good. I almost always use a microphone, and I am using the K6ARK version of microphone, although I built this myself with 3D printed parts and buying the elements off of Amazon. I'll drop the link. As you can see, I have pretty much all the microphones I use on these radios is of the K6ARK design, which are just pretty cool. Now, at the time, it was quite novel that this would run off of USB micro, and you get a little bit of power out of it. But the biggest thing you use this for is for USB control, for cat control. And yeah, you could, with this USB port here, which is pretty nice. That also gives you things like FT8 and a number of other controls. And I use this to make 10 contacts and activate a POTA park, doing contacts on Morse code, CW, single sideband, and FT8. I found FT8 to be a bit fussy, and I was not able to make all the contacts I needed without this crashing a few times and getting disconnected from USB. So just keep that in mind. It's a very inexpensive radio that really claims to do a lot, and it does it, but it doesn't do it flawlessly. And there's certainly some refinement that it needs. But it's still pretty cool. The lowest price radio to purchase in this list today, the TruSDX, on the show again. I've actually covered this a couple of times, so not a bad radio, particularly for the price. Now, if you want to go watch my video on the zBitx, I truly recommend you do so. There's a ton of features in this thing, and I'm just not going to be able to cover them all. So we're just going to do the power output. I already mentioned the power draw in another video. It takes about 3 amps or so to get about 5 watts out. I verified it is 5 watts, literally a video that I shot earlier this week. So we're going to focus mainly on the speaker quality audio and then the audio jack, as well as whatever else we can do while we're in here. But if you want to see more of it, again, go to my live stream that I just completed. The battery of arms of this radio is a little bit easier to use, truth be told. I don't even know what this guy's doing. Let's hear him on the audio here.
Kilo 0 Delta X-ray Victor. Kilo 0 Delta X-ray Victor.
Kilo 0 Delta X-ray Victor 59.
Roger, you're also 59, thanks.
173, thanks. QRP.
Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu.
Hotel Papa 8, Echo Foxtrot Juliet 59. QRP.
Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu.
Victor Echo 7, India Golf Alpha 59. QRP.
Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu.
India 6 November Hotel Zulu 59.
It's Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu 59. Okay, Madeira Island. Wow, okay. Take that. Well, if you had Madeira Island on single sideband on the zBitx on your list, I don't know what to tell you, because that was was pretty impressive. I'm shockingly impressed by that. So there you go. This radio, again, is 5 watts. It covers 10 through 80 meters. This will do FT8 on the radio itself. So you can actually do FT8 things by bringing up the mode. It is an incredibly loud radio on headphones. I'm sparing you the insult for this, but yeah, you can see it works. Now, I have had issues, again, with my video that I put out not too long ago. If you give it too less of power, it draws down on the voltage, and then it will die and reset itself. So I haven't killed it. That's good, but at the same time, don't do that. My tuning might be off a little bit on this radio, because I believe this is the ARRL beacon, but you can see there that we're not really on it. So the battery of arms on this radio is really straightforward. You kind of just touch buttons. There is a menu that lets you switch bands, turns the AGC on and off. There's a set button. The set button is going to be what you go to for the mode of operation. So straight key, side tone control, call sign. Span lets you actually change the span of the waterfall. Bandwidth is your filter bandwidth, and step sizes for tuning. And down at the bottom here, you actually have a number of controls you can do for calling CQ, responding, and you can log built in with the kind of Raspberry Pi system that this runs on. So fully featured in comparison, though, size-wise, it's quite a bit larger to our other radios. No power switch on this one either. You just pull out the plug and it turns itself off. Is that a problem? No. Is it less refined? Sure, but I don't really have a problem with it. So there you go, zBitx. Now, likely my most highly regarded radio in this lot is the QMX from QRP Labs, mainly because I built this myself. Now, truth be told, I built this in 2025. However, I bought this version, this is version 1, in 2023, I believe. God, it could even be 22. I didn't even see the date when it started up here, but it's been a while, and there are multiple revisions of this radio out now, as well as different band spreads. I have the 20 through 80 meter model of this radio, which is fine, but if I were to buy it again, I would get 10 through 20. That would be my preference. So those options are available. Make sure you consider that before you just pull the trigger. Now, with this radio, there is no external speaker. I am powering it off of my power supply, which is just off screen. I built this for 9 volt, so I can run it off of a USB-C rechargeable 9 volt battery. And also, it does like my Talent Cell 9 volt battery pack. This battery pack is not liked by the zBitx. It draws more power than the QMX. The QMX is probably your truest tiny boy QRP radio. In fact, this radio, when it came out, was really only able to transmit on Morse code on CW, but that has changed. You now have upper sideband, lower sideband output, which you can see here. And let's see if we can find our friend who was playing around the bands just a minute ago.
My name is Mike, Mexico, India, Kilo Echo. Your report, 5555.
Golem CQ Radio Alpha 3 Radio, Mike, Germany. Radio Alpha 3 Radio, Guatemala, over. CQ 20 meters. Radio Alpha 3 Radio, Mike, Germany. Radio Alpha 3 Radio, Guatemala, over. CQ 20 meters. Radio Alpha 3 Radio, Radio Alpha 3 Radio, Mexico, Guatemala, over.
Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu.
Again.
Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu.
India Alpha Zulu, please repeat your call.
Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu. Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu. Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu.
Kilo Germany 4 Italy Alpha Zulu, Roger.
Negative. Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu. Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu.
Kilo 76 Italy Alpha Zulu, Roger?
Negative. Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu. Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu.
Kilo India 6 India Alpha Zulu, Roger?
November Alpha Zulu. November Alpha Zulu.
Kilo Italy 6 November Alpha Zulu, Roger?
Roger. 59 into Southern California.
Okay, California, Roger. Your signal report 5x4. 5x4, your signal report. Roger?
Copy. You're 59 into Southern California, USA.
Okay, 59, Roger. Thank you very much for your stuff. Kilo Italy 6 November Alpha Zulu, Radio Alpha 3, Radio Mike, Jimmy. Good luck, all the best. 723.
73, thank you for contact. Okay. Eastern Russia. There you go. I did have 50 mic gain. Maybe that's too much. Maybe I was overdriving it because he gave me a 5.4. So we're just locking in there. Maybe that was too much. Now, a couple of things to note. One, this radio is kind of difficult to get your hands on, particularly if you want it built by somebody who is actually good at kit building. Hans and those at QRP Labs, they have people who build these radios for you, and that's what brings it close to $200. All in, I think you're just shy of 200. I'll annotate this, and it could be just a bit above. And I don't know what's going to happen with the price changes of tariffs and all that fun stuff. The other thing is that while there is a microphone, it's right here under the case, you don't use that microphone for single sideband. In fact, it's not even enabled right now, and Hans has said as much, because he's found that there's a different element that you need to use when using this to put enough gain, more sensitive element into the radio, and that's what I'm using here. Now, this element is not the same as the element that Adam sells in his kit for the TruSDX and the KX2. So keep that in mind. All the signal reports that I'm getting, the mics are slightly different, even though I try to keep them relatively similar. So the TruSDX had a less sensitive mic, and the zBitx and the QMX have more sensitive mics. These are using the better elements as per Hans, and Adam and also my buddy Mark Soda Plus agrees that these are better elements. And so I bought a bunch of them, and I've been mass producing microphones for all these different radios, and they seem to be working okay. For some size comparisons, the QMX is about 3 3/4 inch long, about 2 and just shy of a half wide or deep, and then from the bottom here, and it's got feet about a little shy of 1 inch tall. This, in comparison to TruSDX, oh, they're actually about the same size. Oh, I didn't realize that. The QMX is a bit wider, but they sit almost identically flush. I didn't realize that. That's crazy. Yeah, the QMX is slightly thinner, the body, but once you put the feet on it, then they stand about the same. So these are the most portable of the radios. QMX is probably better sounding, in particular to function. And this one will also do digital mode, and the advantage here is that it's USB-C. So that's going to be the major difference between these two radios. As far as I'm concerned, the QMX is probably the better buy in the long run. This does have a waterfall, which is actually kind of fun, but it's more of a novelty than anything. And the speaker, although nice, is not very effective. You can PTT with the button here, which is novel. Again, it does work, but speaker in combination, you almost always need a headset, and the mic is not very good. You definitely need an external mic with this radio. Last up, and really included for price, although this is a fully functioning radio, it's not bad. After it got an upgrade of firmware, it's improved immensely. It's about a little 5 1/3 inch wide, or deep, long, sorry, 4 3/4 wide at its widest part, and its height above of just the chassis is just over 1.5 inches tall. Now this does have a screen. It has kind of a traditional mic. It has a relatively large speaker, but it's a non-flat facing radio. So this is the one unique one size-wise. So I've got to move everything around to get this recorded correctly.
Thank you so much for the contact, 073. Radio 4 Golf Mexico, 6020.
Well, now that we have somebody we've actually heard, let's switch it over to the cans and hear him a little bit better. I want to point out that to do speaker, you have to plug into the bottom of the mic, which is the only kind of quirky thing on this radio. And then you got to click this button.
Thank you, Joseph. Radio 4 Golf Mexico, 6020 Nito. CQ Collins, 6020 Nito. Radio 4 Golf Mike. Again. Whiskey 7, Charlie Radio.
Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu.
November Alpha.
Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu.
I'm sorry, QRP North America, Radio 4 Golf Mike.
Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu.
Mike Ocean Bravo.
Come on.
Number 0, Mike Ocean Bravo.
Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu.
Yago. C7 Mary Sugar, big signal, 59 plus. My name is Angie. Okay, Mike?
Yeah, very good, Angie. You're 59 plus 5, 59 plus 5 in the state of Montana, QSL.
Holy smokes, that guy is
Thanks for
30
the
over.
contact, 73, Mike.
73.
Radio 4, Golf Mike.
Now this will do digital as well if you go by the CE19 or CE17, I can't remember exactly which one it is, digital interface from Xiegu. I'll have links in the video description for all this stuff, but you can also go get a DigiRig, and I have links to Gigaparts so you get a discount if you go check that out. So yeah, it may save you some money in the long run too. DigiRigs are always really nice because they're very, very small. Now, a few years back, the TruSDX was truly the most versatile sub-$200 radio that you could get your hands on. USB-C for doing digital modes, as well as single sideband out, and Morse code, of course, being in a small little, really small pocket size. A really fun little radio, particularly at the moment that it came out. And then at roughly the same time, we got the G106 from Xiegu, a commercial off-the-shelf radio, and the QMX. And before that, we had the QCX, which was mono-banded. This gives you a couple of band options, both QRP radios. This one, way easier to get your hands on, particularly nowadays at about the $200 mark. And the QMX is a kit form radio, and if you want somebody to build it for you, you're going to wait a pretty long time to get it, but still a really good offering. And then last but not least, we have the zBitx, which is kind of the culmination of all of this, albeit a bigger radio. You can see that as I demonstrated earlier in the video. Much, much bigger, but also packing in its own computer, touchscreen controls, and a whole host of other features, including an internal power supply, this being the only radio of this lot, if you will. And I guess you can call that internal, where it comes with power and it gets 5 watts out. It's actually really hard for me to pick a favorite. Gotta love the QMX because I actually built this, although this is not the band spread that I would want. I would want 10 through 20 meters. That would be preferable to me, at least from, you know, how I radio the most. And I gotta say, the G106 is a mighty upgrade in the sense that its price went down and the firmware upgrades that have come out with this to make it a compelling option for a $200 radio. Yes, it is probably the biggest and heaviest of the lot, but to be honest with you, the fact that it's commercially available right now, anybody can go buy it. It's easy to get. It'll ship to you quick. The only thing is you got to worry about tariffs. I don't know what the impact of tariffs will be on any of these radios, but this one coming from China specifically could be a problem. I will post links in the video description to all of these. I want to hear your thoughts on what the best radio was in this showdown. I am Josh, KI6NAZ 73.